Hey everyone, happy holiday season. Welcome to More Layers. I'm Seth Mariano.
And I'm Jordan Smith. Welcome to episode 42. And if you're watching this around the time of the holidays, like you were saying, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate.
Yeah, so starting this season, we have adopted a new format. We're going to focus on one big topic and then more of a sort of hypothetical discussion question after that. And so we'll jump right into it and we'll talk about something I think is very relevant and maybe all of us recording this or listening to this have probably been guilty of contributing to cancel culture.
Yeah, it's been a big deal, especially in recent years. And people are often canceled for various reasons. It can be for something they said or did at one point. It can be because of their political stance. It can be because of their religious views or something to that effect. But it's, yeah, it's a very current thing. It's still going on. Maybe not as focused on in the media as it once was, but yeah, it's a problem.
And pretty much what got me thinking about it was um, a series of YouTube videos. If you know the Christian YouTube comedian John Christ did a couple of videos of brands that need to be canceled immediately and one called children's toys that need to be canceled immediately, and pretty much going around a store poking fun at people's extremely PC police or judgmental or whatever, or opposition, mm, and frankly irrational toward a certain product or wanting it canceled.
Yeah, for those who don't know who John B. Christ is, like he said, he's a comedian. So if you haven't figured that out, audience, he does this as a joke. He's not actually trying to get these items canceled. He's more so just kind of emphasizing how ridiculous cancel culture has gotten at some points.
Yeah, and it has gotten to the point, perhaps, where it's so nitpicky and so out of proportion. In fact, well, I'm not going to assume I know the reasoning behind this, but I wrote down mentioning Splash Mountain, the iconic Disney park ride, is reportedly being turned into an attraction with a theme based on the Disney film Tangled. And I had one question that was kind of curious because there's been this sort of shaming of one of their earlier films, which was like the focus of Splash Mountain, Song of the South, which has been slammed for with allegations of African American stereotyping in more recent years in the media. So I thought, "Hmm, does this decision have anything to do with that?" I have no clue, honestly, but it's just kind of a guess.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure myself, although I wouldn't be surprised if that had something to do with it, because I know, and understandably, race has become a serious issue. And of course, you don't want to play into stereotypes. And if people are going to give Disney flack for one of their projects, especially for that reason, I feel like the last thing they'd want to do is be associated with something along that line. I think they might have Song of the South on Disney Plus at this point. I'm not sure, but I believe if they don't now, they did at some point, and they had some sort of disclaimer thing at the beginning saying something like, "We are aware that this has stereotypes, racial stereotypes, whatever. We do not condone this, and we don't do this anymore." Because I think they also did something similar for not Fox and the Hound, Lady and the Tramp with the Siamese cats.
Oh yeah, that's been a hot topic. Yeah. And it has gone beyond the more relatively legitimate, I think, matters of politics and politically correct, in that it's even gone as far as to reportedly attacks on media for simply making a creative decision people didn't agree with. Like I heard, after Game of Thrones wrapped up, there were a lot of complaints about how it ended, and it got to the point where there were people were insisting that the people behind that show should be banned from ever working in the industry ever again.
See, that is an instance where I think they kind of overreacted. Now, I can understand if people would be disappointed that the final season is where things just fell flat. Because from what I understand, people were praising the show up till that point, but they just made it clear that they hated the last season. And again, people can be disappointed or upset about that. But saying that a person or even a group of people should never work in the industry again because of that, I think is a little much because nobody is going to be perfect. No one's ever going to really tell a perfect story. It's like people are going to screw up, and maybe this was a big deal for people because it was a big show, a popular show. But again, I don't think it's worth keeping people from working in the industry permanently.
Well, nothing's going to be liked by everybody. I know. I know, there are 100% aggregate scores on Rotten Tomatoes, but that doesn't tell you what everyone thinks of the movie. But
Right.
nothing's going to be liked by everybody. It's nobody. The art is much too subjective for that. And then another example. This is probably an example that's been happening even generations past with bans on books. And this seems to be the reasoning typically seems to be rather, again, nitpicky, because they'll focus on one little detail or something or such within the text that they don't like or they don't believe in, and they'll kind of ignore the context or overlook the context and basically slam the book as a whole for that little thing.
Yeah, I've seen that. I can't think of any books off the top of my head that are banned for reasons like that. I think maybe To Kill a Mockingbird was a in contention for being banned by some schools at some point. Uh, I know the Bible is a big one in non-Christian schools.
Then, um, if you've probably seen recent entertainment news, you've probably heard of actress Candace Cameron Bure, her recent move from Hallmark Channel to the channel Great American Family, and her publicly stating that the channel would not allow any homosexual relationships to be depicted, and which is something that I personally agree with, but it has been it has been unfairly attacked. She has been, I think, unfairly accused of being hateful or discriminating, or she has, to be fair, apparently said that there have been all kinds of people that have been involved in this company that she's been working with. And one other thing I wanted to say, this is simply based on her own Christian religious convictions, and you think about it, it wouldn't be that different from, say, a Jewish filmmaker refusing to show a cheeseburger in a scene because they got that kosher law about meat and dairy. And so, you know, it's not really that different from that.
Not entirely, no.
Yeah, it's
It's like if somebody doesn't believe a certain thing, then they don't want to see it everywhere.
I'm like, it's not like she's telling other studios or filmmakers that she has no business with, how to do their art, or policing a bunch of other people's lives. She won't condone what she doesn't believe in, but she's not gonna go on a full extremist crusade about it, as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is probably kind of a good lead into our take my last general bullet point, judgmentalism, which is kind of like like a core issue, I think, with the whole cancel culture thing. Basically, assuming the heart of, uh, or the heart behind something being there, or someone's motivation for doing something or promoting something or whatever. Uh, it's again, there's a nitpick problem. You don't probably 90% of the time know what you're talking about, and you just and what you see may not be what it looks like.
Yeah, that's another big issue right there, is that people won't always get the whole picture before they start taking sides or making their viewpoints or whatever. Like I remember for a while people would post videos on the internet. They probably still do this, but they would post videos of some, for example, like a fight going on, but they won't show the whole clip. And sometimes they do that to make a certain person look bad. But if you happen to see the whole clip, it could be entirely possible that the person that they were rooting for is the person who caused the problem to begin with, but that person doesn't want you to see that.
Why don't we lighten the tone just a little bit and continue on to a sort of curious back and forth hypothetical question. Today, it's who's a celebrity you might like to play in a biopic?
Yeah, I thought of five separate ones. Uh, and the first one I wrote, and I know I keep talking about this guy,
Yeah.
but I would personally love to play Vic Mignogna. The reason for this is because, like me, he's an energetic voice actor guy. We actually share very similar, if not the same, beliefs when it comes to Christianity or whatever. Um, but I also feel like it would give me an opportunity, as well as others who view it eventually, to kind of explore the whole controversy that surrounded him a few years ago and how he hasn't really had much of a career after that. And I'll say I met the guy in person. He seems like a good guy. He really helped me through some tough times after watching some of his work. Um,
Yeah, I've seen the story. I've read it on Jordan's Facebook. It's a very sweet story, and it's and you could probably hear more about it in our first episode. But yeah, you can maybe share the highlights if you want to or not.
well, I won't go into too much detail, partly because I've talked about it countless times before. But when I did go to meet him, I drew a picture of Dragon Ball. Um, I gave it to him. He took a minute or so to admire it. Uh, and then he started to slide it back to me, thinking I was just showing it to him. But when I told him it was for him, like it was a gift, he looked so surprised and he asked me for my autograph. And I loved watching people, not just myself, but other people talk to him, because you could tell he was listening to every word you were saying. You could tell he was paying attention. You could tell that he cared. You could tell that he wanted every interaction he had with someone to be meaningful.
Yeah. Now, it kind of reminds me of there's this video of a YouTuber who goes by the screen name Cobra Kai Kid. He is it's pretty much like a whole Cobra Kai fan channel. Goes into like thoughts on character arcs, and he did a whole video of himself going to a convention where he got to meet a bunch of the actors on the show, and a couple or so of them are like, you could see if you watch the video when you were like, uh, you would probably forget, but who's the star and who's the fan here, because they're like, because like these actors are lit up, they're excited to see him. Um, they're probably were familiar by this time with his channel, whatever, and they were just so kind and engaging. It's a nice thing to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So who else did you put?
So the second person I wrote down was actually Zac Efron.
Hmm.
If people for some reason do not know who that is, he kind of got, or rather, kind of made a name for himself when he starred in the High School Musical movies. But then he didn't necessarily disappear, but people kind of forgot about him for a while because he didn't really do much as far as I know. I'd have to IMDb that.
He's
But
kind of since taken on like more mature or much more mature projects than Disney would probably ever allow him, like Neighbors and some I think it was some Netflix documentary series. You probably have to read more about that, but yeah.
like, I think he portrayed a serial killer or something at one point. Um, yeah, I feel like a lot of child stars that do stuff for, say, Disney, Nickelodeon, what have you, they will go on to do more mature projects sometimes. And the reason for that, I feel usually, is because they want to distance themselves from those previous roles. Like they don't want to be seen as just that character. Miley Cyrus, she wanted to not just be referred to as Hannah Montana or the person who played Hannah Montana. So I feel like Zac Efron might be doing the same thing. Uh, but the other reason I thought of him was when he starred alongside Hugh Jackman in the musical film Greatest Showman. It's like I love the story. I love his portrayal of it. And I have actually had not a ton of people, but depending on how my hair is at some point, I've had some people say that I kind of look like him to a certain degree. So maybe that could help if I ever were to play him in a biopic, but I don't know.
I remember, being like in the music wing when we were getting ready to do Willy Wonka, and seeing Jordan in his full Willy Wonka costume, and they're talking about him like, I think maybe somebody said something about the resemblance to P.T. Barnum or something, and he starts singing a little bit from the opening number in the movie, like, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of goofy little moment there.
Yeah, I thought about it. I know some people were saying it because I had the hat and the staff and what have you. So I was kind of doing the pose while singing the song. I kind of did something similar when we did The Little Mermaid because I also had a trench coat type thing, a big hat, whatever. Um, yeah, Zac Efron ends up with a similar outfit by the end of the film, so it could happen.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right. What other ones?
Next one I had was Chris Hemsworth,
Yeah.
and
Who? Thor, right?
yep, he's the guy portraying Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Um, he just seems like one of those guys that loves to have fun, both on and off camera. I could very well be wrong because I don't know his personal life, but it just seems like he has a blast. And that is a big reason in of itself, but honestly, I think it would be cool to portray a superhero in a film. That's one of the things I'd love to do at some point. And of course, the blonde hair and whatever. So I definitely would need to put on some muscle, but I feel like to some degree I could pull it off.
Yeah, well, Jordan actually has some weightlifting experience. I don't know how long it's been since he's done it, but
It's been a while.
yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, well, that I wouldn't have the motive to do, I don't think, but I have I've done, you know, modest activity that you know, I haven't really done that much lately, but so who else you got?
The fourth person I wrote down is Owen Wilson.
Oh,
He's starred in a few things. Some people, especially younger audiences, might know him as the voice of Lightning McQueen. MCU fans might know him from the Disney Plus series Loki. He's been in, I think it was a movie called Wonder.
yes, yes.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
that. Some people might know him from Night at the Museum.
Oh
But
yeah. Like, what
hmm,
was the character that he did in Night at the Museum? I'm like, was it like a historical figure?
he was, I don't know if the character was based on a real person, but he portrayed a cowboy by the name of Jedediah.
All right.
But he also carries a lot of energy, and of course he's been memed a lot for the way he says the word wow. Um, again, don't know his personal life, but he seems like he has a lot of fun, and he has the kind of voice and is able to do certain accents that I haven't done a lot of yet. So I feel like it could be fun to try some of those. I wouldn't necessarily try to mimic the Jedediah voice. Maybe I could pull off an Owen Wilson impression if I really tried. But yeah, I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And you had one more, did you?
Yep, I had one more, and this one's a little bit further out there than the other four.
Hmm.
But the last person I wrote down was Keanu Reeves.
Yes, the star of the Matrix series and
Yep,
some other things. John Wick.
yep, John Wick. He was a voice in Toy Story 4. I know that
Yes.
much. I feel like there was at least one more, but I can't think of it. Uh, oh, actually, I think I always find this really hilarious. He turned down multiple superhero roles for one reason or another, yet he said yes to portraying a tumbleweed in the latest SpongeBob film. But we don't necessarily look a lot alike. I don't know if I can do a Keanu Reeves voice yet, but the biggest reason I thought of him is because, especially now, everybody just seems to love him. Like for a while after the main Matrix movies wrapped up, like he kind of disappeared for a while, but then out of nowhere, his popularity just peaked. Everybody was talking about him, everybody seemed to love him, and he could just appear on stage and people would just get so excited. And that is something I would love to do because one of the things I want to do with my life is make as many people smile. Excuse me, is make as many people smile and laugh as I can, and just being able to show up and people get excited. I want to have that effect for that reason on people. And I can't remember what he was advertising at the time. I think it might have been Cyberpunk, the game. But at one point he was on stage to talk about something and he was just happy to be there. He was having a blast. And then at some point somebody just shouts at him, "You're amazing." And then he sends it right back at them saying, "You're amazing and you're amazing," and what have you. It's like I'd love to do something like that.
Uh, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, only time will tell. I'm an aspiring actor, so it could happen.
All right. I had four that I came up with, and the first one that I wrote is Marilyn Manson, which might be surprising to every single person who hears this, including my family. But um, I think, it would be interesting just to play maybe like a sort of uh, a dark, glamorous, controversial figure, and maybe kind of look more in depth into their career, with a movie telling their story, and have all this theatrical makeup and do some crazy flashy stuff that I think would be interesting.
He's a musician, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I remember him having this really dark, edgy sort of persona, at least based on appearance. But I couldn't remember exactly what he did. I was sure he was a musician, but yeah, if you think you can portray him, I'd say go for it. I don't know much about him,
Yeah.
but I will take your word for it. And if you ever
Yeah.
do get the chance, I'd love to see it.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. And then another one I think maybe I could probably do a little easier, at least. Jeff Foxworthy. He's one of my favorite comedians, and well, probably best known for his "You might be a redneck" if lines. And
Yep.
it probably would be easy for me because I feel like I kind of have a southern back layer to my voice because of some Arkansas roots that I have, and you know, I could probably easily get the look, and I enjoy a sense of humor, so I think I might like that.
Sure. You could also portray him when he was the host of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Yeah,
Um, I'd love to see you, if this is the case, I'd love to see you recite in your best Jeff Foxworthy impression at some point to do his I want to say it's called the 12 Redneck Days of Christmas.
oh, yeah, I have heard that one. Yeah,
I think that's what it's called, but yeah, I'd love to see you do that if you really want
oh,
to be Jeff Foxworthy.
oh, cool. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and we've already mentioned him today, but John Christ. I really like his comedy. I've really been enjoying it lately because it really has a way of really uh, kind of accurately satirizing the common idiosyncrasies in Christian culture, like the weird tendencies we tend to have collectively le- as a Christian culture group.
Sure.
And he is pretty much not afraid to call all people out on that. Well, it does it, with class and humor, and uh, that is just kind of something I've been admiring him for. So yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments from him was when he had this routine that got the audience involved because he was just reading off of his phone lists of reasons as to why people weren't allowed to watch certain things growing up. And some of the reasons kind of sort of made a little sense, but some of them were just really out of left field. And his laugh is contagious. His style of humor, like you were saying, is good. Um, yeah, I think you could pull it off. I really do.
Yeah, thanks. And for those who don't know what video Jordan was referring to, it's called cartoons Christian kids weren't allowed to watch or something. You can find that on his YouTube channel, John B. Christ. Yeah, it's yeah. You want to know what responses he got and their parents' reasonings for it. Yeah, you might laugh, or you might think like, come on, or something.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Yeah. All right. I had just one more. Or
Okay.
the race car driver Tony Stewart. He was and drove in NASCAR for several years before retiring a few years ago. And you know, I read actually an Amazon sample of a book that he wrote, kind of about his career and his philosophy on racing and the rules of it. And he talked about one controversial moment in his career, when he was driving a race, and he had stumbled outside the boundary line at the bottom of the track, like, and he got what they called a black flag for it. So no, he would be so he would pretty much be by default the last place car finishing on the lead lap, assuming that he would finish the race.
Right.
Hey, but he goes in one section of the book, kind of explaining, his reasoning for doing it because of the traffic around him, and 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 he explains that I decided to. I knew that I'd gone beyond the line, but I decided to stay out just in case they double checked that and changed their mind about it, which apparently they didn't. And and he actually got so upset that no one was explaining it to him, and he took it too far. He actually, when a reporter or went to interview him, he like knocked their tape recorder out of their hand, and that's how ticked off he was. And he has a reputation for being very like like um very opinionated and almost no hold back about his anger. That would be something interesting to explore, I think.
Okay, and with the book, you'd have a lot of information to work from.
Yeah, yeah, possibly, or other like legal YouTube clips might also help.
That would definitely help.
Yeah.
Are you a big racing fan?
Probably not as much as I was. I feel like I've gotten farther away from that. I feel like it's been difficult for me to get into lately, but I've been watching Buffalo Bills football regularly though.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think the Eagles are in the postseason, right?
Yeah, they are one of the few teams, as far as I know, to have already clinched a spot in the playoffs. I think the Cowboys just did, but those are the only two I'm certain about. And then there was one team that I think it was the Broncos that have already lost their chance at being in the playoffs.
Oh, right.
So yeah, there are some teams that either already have it or already have no shot, but they're getting to that point where it's starting to form a bit as to who's going to be in, who won't be, who will have the first week automatically, who won't, where they're going to play. It's starting to get there because I think they've been through 13, 14 games, and there's only about 3 or 4 left. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. In case anybody didn't know, I asked him because he's an Eagles fan.
I am. And
Yeah.
no, it is not because they're the best team in the league right now, at least in terms of record. I've been a fan of theirs for about 20 or so years at this point, and only recently did they win their first Super Bowl a few years ago. So I've been a fan for a while, not just this season.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I've got, and that's I think it's going to do it for today. And we're going to be gone for a little while because of holiday time with family, but
Mhm.
I think at some point after all that's wound down, we should be back again for a whole nother go at this. In the meantime, you can enjoy our episodes on Spotify, Facebook, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. And uh, questions, comments, suggestions are always very welcome, very appreciated.
Yeah, we love any interactions we have with the audience, any questions you may have, anything you want us to talk about in a future episode, anything you want us to talk about in regards to a previous episode. We'd love to hear from you. Keep the interactions going. Tell other people about us so we can grow and reach a wider audience. We'd greatly appreciate it. And we had a great 2022 season. And if we don't have any more episodes by the end of the year, we hope to see you in 2023.
All right. So, a very happy holiday and a happy new year to all of you. See you soon. Take care.
So long, everyone.